Since the beginning of the week, Eunice Lim is there, and we are very proud for her presence during all week long as an artist in residence. And artist will now explain to you what she did, because now the sculptures are for ESSEC, and we will have the sculptures now. Eunice Lim is a Singapore-based visual artist, has always been intrigued with human relationships and narratives in culture. She translates her study with mediums her ideas discern most appropriate for. Her research is driven based on the critique of the system to confront beliefs designed by a structure for society. Eunice approaches her works in a systematic laid manner, the very same ways she believes social conditioning are formed. Eunice graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Art at La Salle College of Art in partnership with Goldsmiths, University of London. She has exhibited actively in various venues such as Iron Art Gallery, Substation Gallery in Singapore too, at Volleyball Art Fair, 7C University in Turkey, and Angel Ozenwon Foundation of Contemporary Art in New York. Please, warm welcome to Eunice, please.
Testing. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for having me here. It's my great pleasure to be invited by Professor Xavier to come over and be an artist in residence to create works right here in the new school campus to kickstart the new campus in Singapore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a brief introduction of myself, what I do as an artist, probably my work, my practice throughout the past 6 years could inspire you, even though art and business might seem very, very different, but actually creativity is something that's underlying throughout every society, throughout everything that we do throughout our entire lives. So I'll start off with, first of all, I'm not sure if any of you have seen this work. If you have been in Singapore long enough, can anyone guess where this is? Have anyone seen it at all? All right, if you've not seen it, okay, it's actually a huge mural I did that is 13 meters tall and 12 meters wide at a shophouse in Little India. It's one of the heritage places in Singapore. So I'll briefly introduce who am I. So I'm a visual artist. So my works are mainly based through exhibitions, through commissions, through public spaces. So actually, like this place over here is a real public site in Singapore. And most of my works are always based on people, about culture, about narratives, and things like that. And I also mainly work with community arts. I work with people a lot because I believe that people make up a culture, people make up a scene. And I think it is where art goes into public, where it can influence people, it can influence society. All right, so a little bit about artwork. So I think I'll start off fresh from the oven, the one that actually just completed yesterday. So the work over here. All right, so these works are actually 3 sculptures that are very much based on my recent research on monuments. So monuments are like sculptures, are like statues that you kind of look up to, and monuments actually inform us of history. It kind of represents something that is very significant, a milestone in a country, a milestone in someone's life that is being impactful in a place. So in that sense, I created these 3 sculptures to represent a site-specific work that can only be found here. So the theme is actually work to live and live to work. So what I'm trying to say over here, because my works are very much about systems, about structures. So in that sense, you see a systematic sculpture over here where the blocks are actually represented by fixed structure. So the wooden blocks represents where we are, our limitations, what is being set up for us, our foundations. Whereas the strings come in, where some of you interact with me and told me about it as well, where it's actually kind of like cross paths, roads that people interact with, people come into contact with. There's collaboration. There is something that's so intertwined and things like that. Like sometimes you see uniform strings, sometimes you see strings that overlay each other. And I think this is where I call organic structure, because within fixed structure, you need a form of organic society as well, because that's where the creative part comes in. People work together, people have new inspirations, people spark off new things from each other, you rub off each other. So in that sense, it is not outside of structure, it's not within structure, but it is the structure itself. So fixed and organic structure is very much part of what I believe is live to work and work to live, because they are intertwined with each other. All right, if there's more questions about the work, you can ask me later on. All right, so I'll briefly go through some of my past works as well, so you can have a brief idea of why I create what I created. So this is also a past work I did in 2014, where it's actually very much based on Singapore's society, Singapore's culture, where I believe sometimes we have a sheep mentality. So we always follow, we always go through motions in life, but we do not create something that is outside of the structure. So this is, in that sense, creating a sculpture on its own. So this is actually my very first inspiration of how monuments came about. So this is actually a real place in Singapore. I believe this monument can be actually found all over the world as well. So this is actually not the Malayan, the first sculpture in Singapore, the obelisk over here. Yes, so this is actually a monument that was built to kind of represent Singapore's prosperity. It was a gift, so it kind of represents the good economy. So in that sense, when this monument was built, I really believe that that was kind of the focus of Singapore's direction. Therefore, most of the direction that Singapore is undertaking is also based on like economy, based on prosperity, and instead of just creativity, like the Malayan is not the first sculpture, which is very interesting. So after that, I actually created more other site-specific works. So this is actually a work I did based on 2,000 potato chips. So it's actually like an idol, like a sculpture that was made to actually represent food wastage in Singapore, and is re-emphasizing again today on television programs. Yep, so as well I have very past works where I also talk about cultures and society and how they are intertwined. So actually most of my past works are very based on books. So books, why? Because I believe every page has its own narrative, even though it's contained within a book. Every page is like a person. So in that sense, when each page is actually being placed together, they're actually being layered up through cutout. So actually you can see like there's a cutout from the previous page, the page after, and things like that. So actually I have some of these works with me now. If there's questions later, I can show you regarding it. So these are some of my other works as well. So my works are really much based on like society and how it's being a critique of like how we are actually functioning within the system itself. So even like the upcoming trends of like social media and people cannot live within social media itself. Okay, so live to work, work to live. So I'll briefly explain like what I think about the theme. So for me as an artist, I really think that it's a bit difficult to define working and living, because my work is my life and my life is my work. If I don't have art, I do not know what I will be. So in that sense, I think how this kind of come about is more towards your purpose. How do you define work, and what do you define living as? So very importantly, I think the most fundamental thing that I have that prolonged through the past 6 years as an artist is I believe that creativity needs to be a culture with any aspects, be it in business, be it in science, be it in marketing, be it in schools, institutions. I believe creativity needs to be a culture instead of just, oh, I mean, I'm not an artist, so I cannot be creative. That's not true. So definitely, creativity is just bringing something different, something refreshing that is not of the norm, because you can't fixate what structure has already been placed out there. You can't be just taking what is already there and repeating it, because that it defeats the purpose. It's just being lazy. So we really need to take what is already there and bring it to the next level. And how can we represent this? How can we talk about the idea, talk about what is the message you want to drive across, what's the purpose of your business, and things like that. So very much I believe that creativity is not a talent, and it's really a way of operating, it's a way of living, it's a lifestyle that we kind of need to undertake through everything. But I think there's some misconception about creativity altogether, because sometimes most people would take creativity for granted. Why do I say so? So there's a comic strip over here that shows if people are other operations are being paid, like not just artists in particular, but if in any creative sense. So it's like I do not hold creativity as of high importance, but more importantly, it is we need to value this creativity as a movement, as a lifestyle in wherever we are, and especially me being a Singaporean, as much in Singapore. Yep, so to end off my presentation, usually I will always tell my friends to, whenever you do anything, you need to take people on the same ride as you, because if not, they can't see what you're doing. And ultimately, the thing that I like to do every day, sometimes when I don't see a purpose, is there's this quote by Gilbert and George, is when you wake up every morning, you sit at the edge of your bed and you close your eyes and take a deep breath and you ask yourself, what do you want to tell the world today? So sometimes creativity just starts by that, like what is my purpose, what do I want to tell people in every single day? Yep, so that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.